This is Covert Agent Ravage, and you are watching another Malwave Transformers review.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the 4th day of Ravage Week. The Bay films. It's a source of controversy among the entire Transformers fandom. Some people say they really liked it. Some people say it's the worst abomination to ever happen to Transformers since Robots in Disguise or the Unicron trilogies. In my own personal opinion, I'm not going to say, because I don't want to start a flame war. But I will say that there was one figure that came out of the line that I honestly will say was mediocre at best and kind of okay at worst. It's a figure of obvious, since we're talking about Ravage, we can't really continue a conversation or continue the week without mentioning this figure. So ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the video review of Transformers Deluxe Revenge of the Fallen Ravage. Huh. Well, I was going to talk about the vehicle mode, but what the fuck is this thing? What? 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 What is this? I don't. Why? Brain failing. What is this? I don't even. Yeah, if you haven't guessed, this is the Ravage's vehicle mode. Jeez, and I was saying a tape was bad. Yeah, I got nothing to say. Aside from this is probably the worst vehicle mode I've ever seen. It looks like the laziest excuse to make a vehicle mode. Like, the Fallen at least had some semblance of jet when he did this. Ravage can't get away with that. They're not going to call this Cybertronian jet mode because, to be honest, this isn't a jet. This is a robotic cat who sprang wings, tucked his tail underneath his legs, and moved his legs all forward to resemble a nose, even though this isn't. And some of you may think, I'm at least looking for one person to go, that's not the real mode. Oh no? Look online. That's the exact mode. I may have changed the position of the guns back here, but otherwise, this is exactly how it's supposed to transform. Yeah, I'm just going to give the vehicle mode an 11 and just kind of move on to the transformation sequence, where this toy actually makes up for it. Alright, obviously, you first want to do is fold in these wings, or whatever the fuck they are. You want to pull these arms, they loosely sit over these ears. You want to move these arms forward and open up the front claws. You want to move back, take the tail, unhinge the tail, and move it back, and then just unfold the tip. Then you want to take the legs, and they pivot on these little swivels. So they swivel back, and then pull down, and you want to pull the foot forward. So same thing on this one. Swivels, tabs in, pulls down, fold the foot forward. And last, what you want to do is you want to pull these two chest pieces, these two side panels in completely to form a chest. Then you just want to move all these into position, pull the legs down and around, and there you have Revenge of the Fallen Ravage in cat mode. Now you see what I mean about it making up for the vehicle mode. This is a very nice cat mode. I was so damn excited when I first heard that this was getting a toy. This is also a reason why I hate Bumblebee in the films. Bumblebee had to literally pick Ravage up by the tail and rip out his spine. Really, Bumblebee? Really? The vehicle mode or the cat mode, vehicle mode, LOL, swah swah. The cat mode looks very nice. I love the use of teal, the purple light piping, some of the nice white here and there. And just in general, just the toy looks very nice. And my battery is starting to die. 1 second. Sorry about that there, folks. Yeah, it took a bit longer to charge up the battery than I thought. But anyways, as I was saying, I do love the color scheme of this toy. I mean, the light piping looks very, very good, and if I had a flashlight with me... Aha! There you are, you bastard! Pocket flashlight. Hopefully if this works... Put my thumb in front of there so you can just see the light piping. Actually does have a very nice bit of light piping to it. If you can kind of see that. Looks very nice. I don't know, most people said that, you know, oh, Ravage, one-eyed cat. I love this. It makes him look a lot more menacing. Articulation for the toy is as such. There's no head articulation for gimmick later on. You've got the thigh, the shoulders, which are on a ball joint, and also on a slight pivot, which due to the transformation, but it also helps. You've got a thigh swivel, or not the elbow swivel, like a 360-degree elbow rotation, and you get a nice little bit of the Mecha Live or Mech Tech or whatever the fuck it's called gimmick there, and you have about 180 degrees of pivot on the arm, and you have about, I'd say about 45 degrees, I said 90, but about 45 degrees pivot, and the hands do, the front paws do collapse. He's got 360 degree waist articulation, which... Hey guys, look, it's Gerwalk mode. I'm not sure if I should keep that in or keep that as a stinger for the end, but either way. He's got... the back ones don't have... The back feet do have a ball joint, though it's very limited. Mostly due to the transformation. But there it is right there. It's got some posability, but not as much. It's mostly used as a rotation joint versus an actual ball joint. The knees are double jointed here and here. So point there and point there. About 90-degree pivot for each. And the back foot has almost... The back foot I also put as 90 degrees of pivot. Also, the tail does have about 3 pivot joints. There, here, here, and here. Where this last one is actually a ball joint. So for articulation, I'm going to give Revenge of the Fallen Ravage a 20 out of 25. Again, there are some points on it that do kind of mess up the articulation, but I still say for a cat, this is very good. And again, we're going to deal with another figure with the bad gimmick. Gimmicks get 17. Now, what I marked good for gimmicks are the back-mounted machine guns. I don't know why, but I just love the idea of Ravage, instead of having missiles, having giant fucking machine guns on his back that, you know, he can position. Now, granted, like, he can't really, you know, move them side to side unless the waist joint goes. And I don't think Ravage is going to stand on his front paws and pretty much just go, and pretty much just kind of be like, though in all honesty, that would be pretty awesome. Ravage does like a handstand, and Ravage is pretty much like handstands. And then like the gun rotates side to side like this. You know, actually, to be honest, that's kind of a hidden idea. I did not think of this until just now. It's amazing what'll happen when you just randomly play with the toy. Anyways, getting back to reality, because I am so amused by simple things. The machine guns do have a very nice bit of pivot. They pivot forward, they pivot up and down, you know, so you can shoot birds out of the sky, and it pivots forward and back. So you can have like the machine gun action. It all depends. It's cool. And in some modes you can actually rotate these around. In the cat mode you can actually rotate this, I believe. Well, I guess that must have been the Legends figure, but I thought you could rotate these around and make them engines. However, the reason that this thing gets a 17 is because of this gimmick. Now, you'll be noticing the switch here. And why I mentioned there was no head articulation? Ravage now has roaring action! Yay! It's a cool idea, it's just not very good. You know, it's just not a very good implementation of the gimmick. It's not very good in terms of, in general, because you literally limit no head articulation. You could still have had head articulation in this thing. Even a pivot. Like, it would have been nice if the cat could actually move his head kind of slightly up. Whatever. For fun factor, I'm going to give Revenge of the Fallen Ravage a 22 out of 25. Now, as most of people know and probably joke, you have the Sea Attack Ravage. You have the I believe there was another Ravage released. I thought that didn't come to us. You have the you have the Hunt for the Decepticons Nest Special Edition Ravage, which you sent in a few badges for. You have the Recon Ravage that was released in Canada. You know, and you have this thing. You have 5 versions of this mold that you can get your hands on. Now, I picked up the Recon Ravage and kept him in box, you know, because I'm thinking it might be worth something later. But otherwise, I bought this thing when it came out because this was uppercut. Hadouken! Shoryuken! Never mind. I bought this thing because this was the original color scheme that it was in the movie. Whenever you think of Ravage, you don't think of a silver, you don't think of a Voltron-esque Black Lion, you don't think of a blue and a black silver thing, you don't think of a Ravage that you can't even, like, this is Ravage. Now, granted, in the film he was silver, and maybe later on I may do a paint redo, maybe a custom of that, but regardless, this is the Ravage that most people think of. A black cat. He's a black cat with silver who works for Soundwave. And as I said, I do like the additions of the teal and the purple. They do match well with the figure. But otherwise, in total, Revenge of the Fallen... Oh, whoops, I almost forgot. I kind of went off track. I derailed my thoughts. I was on Fun Factor. Jeez. This is what happens when you don't get much sleep, folks. Ravage also has an easy transformation. However, the one thing that impedes it is that this tail is incredibly thin. The joints for the guns and the tail are incredibly thin. And if a kid were to go like, yeah, he'd actually not only imitate what happened in the film, but would break his Ravage completely. And I don't think he'd want to do that. So in total, I'm going to give Revenge of the Fallen Ravage a 70 out of 100. Granted, it's not a great score for a toy, but that's only because all the scores were mediocre at best. Most of them, this toy, what it does well, it does well. Whatever it doesn't do well, it's pretty obvious to see. However, I still recommend, if you want to at least buy one version of this mold, at least buy this version, or buy the Sea Attack Ravage as this one if you can't get your hands on this one. However, tomorrow, we're going to be covering a toy that's a lot easier to get your hands on than this thing. In fact, I think they still might have some in stores. So until next time, this is Malwave with Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Ravage, signing out. See you, everybody!